Okay, just so you know who we are, this is Wes Craven. That's my voice. I'm the director.
And this is Marianne Madalena, producer.
And Patrick Lussier, film editor.
And we are the ones that were available to get together, and I thought it would be fun to have at least Marianne and Patrick. Not here is Kathy Conrad, our other producer, who is off already on another movie. Anyway, this was an idea of ours to start this movie in Hollywood, or to play the movie in Hollywood, because we felt that was kind of the ultimate story plot. Point was the difference between reality and kind of the stories and media inventions that media makes about our lives and the lives of people that have extraordinary things happen to them. So we brought it. We thought we'd start on a freeway in the middle of a traffic jam, which is very typically L.A., and begin it with Liev Schreiber.
Originally, though, Wes, we didn't have Cotton Weary in the beginning.
No,
remember?
What did we have? No, I have no memory.
We had...
Originally, it was Ben Damon.
Who was an actor in Stab 2, right, Patrick?
He's an actor who's going to star in Stab 3, who is, I think, coming home or on his way to pick up his girlfriend to go to the premiere of Stab 3. No, Stab 2.
Right.
Stab 2, and he was going to be the star of Stab 3, if I'm correct.
Right, and then we changed it from that. We changed it to a girl, to an actress. And then it went back to Ben Damon, young actor, and then someone came up with the idea of sticking Cotton Weary in the beginning, which was a good idea.
Okay. Andrea, I got to call you back. Someone's on the other line.
I remember we had discussions about whether it would be as strong with a man in jeopardy or not, and I think we eventually added Cotton Weary's girlfriend to the sequence too, did we not?
Yes, because of that.
That's very good. So, why don't you tell me who you are?
There was 3 kind of different versions of different pieces of his shot. Part of this opening, we had gone back and done differently with different dialogue to make it much more specific in terms of dealing with Sydney. Originally, it was very much in terms of the first and second movie, or the first movie, which was the idea of the game, playing the game. What's your favorite scary movie? And then it was seeing that it was far better story-wise to have it where's Sydney.
Right, the killer looking for Sydney as the main thing that he's doing here in the beginning of the picture. So we actually shot, after this elaborate business of shooting the scene out on the freeway that we closed down, we, if I'm not mistaken, went back and shot a great deal of it in the sort of parking lot and street outside of our studio in the valley.
And it matches in perfectly. If you actually watch it, there's shots from both times this scene was shot are all mixed together, and you can't really tell where one ends and one begins. It literally goes shot for shot.
Right. And a lot of this we were writing as we were shooting. Liev kept changing his lines, right, Marianne?
Right.
And run over and write them down, and then he'd do them again.
Yeah, it was stressful on the crew, although as we didn't have a script, until a real script a couple weeks before we started shooting, I think it was pretty amazing that we pulled it off, even with writing on the set.
Right.
Here's Cotton's TV show, 100% Cotton.
And that title was, I think, proposed all the way back with Scream 2, with some of the actors joking that in Scream 3, Cotton should have a show called 100% Cotton, which we always liked that idea and kept it.
100% Cotton, the fabric of your life.
Marianne, why don't you tell us a little bit about this actress?
Okay, Kelly Rutherford from Melrose Place. As we added this character pretty late in the game, we were casting while we were shooting. And Wes couldn't even be there in the room. He saw her later on tape. But she absolutely had the best scream, and she was the most convincing. And Wes agreed when he saw the tape, and she got the part.
Someone pick up the goddamn phone. Move on!
Yes, we went through many, many different women, depending on who was making suggestions. We were looking for somebody who could pull off the acting role. But we got a great combination with Kelly, who's beautiful, but also pulls off the part. We also shot this, if I'm not mistaken, on a location in Los Angeles in a beautiful apartment. And then when we changed the content of the scene largely, we rebuilt almost all of the apartment on a stage and went back and shot it again.
It was very hard to get a location in West Hollywood. They normally don't let you shoot there. So I think we had to get in and out of there in 2 days, Wes, was it?
Yes.
And so there was no way we could ever go back. So we did end up rebuilding the entire apartment.
When you actually see Cotton enters the stairwell of their location apartment and then walks in the door of the set.
Right.
And then Bruce Allen Miller did a great job kind of building those two things together because it seamlessly looks like the same place.
This is all set, built on stage, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Is there any apartment left here?
I think only the shot where he comes up the stairways is the only original thing left.
This one?
Or
No.
am I wrong?
No, I'm pretty sure it's the two things. When when Cotton comes in, his run up the stairwell, and then Cotton's final demise is actually from the original version. When he's actually stabbed, that's all from the original apartment.
Oh, that's right.
The original
yeah.
location.
Right.
So all this is set up. Oh, there's the skylight from the skylight version.
Yes, we had a version that involved a big skylight sequence, which we built the roof and everything, but never used it.
Wanted to have Cotton Weary escaping through the skylight, and we didn't like the way that looked, so we reshot it.
It seemed that if Cotton could climb up to the skylight, he could clearly beat the crap out of the ghost who was lying down in her bookcase.
He looked a little wimpy trying to crawl out of the skylight.
So we tweaked the end of that sequence so that Wes went in and shot Cotton getting nailed in the face with a bookcase, which works really effectively.
Oh, here's the real apartment. Obviously, this is not a set. I think there was the original version. Cotton came back and went through the apartment and then opened a closet door, and his girlfriend, who had been talking to him the whole time, we thought, spills out dead already.
Yeah, we had never been introduced to her. We hadn't seen her up to that point that she fell out of the closet.
Yeah, the original opening was all Cotton, which
Yeah.
is why the game scenario worked very effectively with him in that version.
You mean it was 100% Cotton?
100% Cotton? Yes. It was what's your favorite scary movie? And the correct answer being Christine, I think, was, and Christine being his girlfriend's name.
Right, yeah, and what was the name of the car in the John Carpenter
Yeah.
movie, right? There's an interesting little sidelight here of the television image, which we decided later would be good to have playing in the room, so we just put it on electronically. And even the shot here where he walks by it is fake. The television was actually off, but those are those little afterthoughts you can have these days with CGI.
Oh, and we missed the song, the Creed song, What If, which came on a little bit earlier. That we had right away. We had that very early in the day, didn't we?
Yeah, we had that
Patrick?
very, very early. That played very prominently in the first version when Cotton just came in by himself when we didn't see Christine, and then in the reconception of these things in order to capitalize on introducing Kelly Rutherford, the song was tweaked to work in this sequence, and again works very effectively. The idea that it's functioning as a scare.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an amusing side story here that Liev had been working out a lot before this. So he had a lot of cut here, a lot of bulk, and we were worried that he wouldn't look vulnerable at all. But he was worried that the stuntman wasn't in as good a shape as he was.
Is that you, babe? Chris, if you're in there, open the door, okay, honey? Chris? Come on, baby, open the door. Chris, what are you doing?
Stay back! Stay back!
Chris, what's going on, babe?
I think when you shot this, Wes, one of your, if I seem to remember, one of the problems that you had was seeing that golf club swing through the air as it was this thin black thing.
It goes so fast. We kept slowing her down, and we still had a hard time seeing it.
Didn't the golf club head fall off, too, and almost kill someone?
Well, I don't know whether it almost killed somebody, but yeah, there was written in the script was that he kept the fireplace poker up and blocked one of her blows, and every time we did that, the head would just go flying off. The physics of it were just too extreme. It drove our props guy crazy.
Because he didn't have a backup.
He didn't have backups.
So we had to say, who's got a golf club in their trunk?
So here we are back in the original location.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Because you can
wow.
actually see that the room now doesn't have a skylight; it actually has a vaulted ceiling.
Wasn't that downstairs? But now,
Yeah, it was downstairs. You can see that the ceiling is now much, much higher.
oh my God,
If
I
you
never
look.
noticed that.
But,
We won't tell.
yeah, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Now where are we, Marianne?
Topanga Canyon at Sydney's Hideaway.
Supposedly Northern California.
Yep. Beautiful location.
Yeah, this was way up in the hills. It was quite a schlep for the Teamsters to get everything up there, but it was a great location.
Beautiful up there.
Sydney's dog, Cherokee.
Cherokee.
Come on, Cherokee. Come on.
Oh, no, there's an actual photograph of Nev with her actual father.
Yeah, on the left.
And a poster from the Fall of Troy from Scream 2. It's worth noting in passing, this is Marco Beltrami again on the score. Did all three Screams and reprised Nev's or Sidney's themes, I think, really beautifully in this movie.
It seemed to be the most mature score of the three, and as the characters matured, the score did quite beautifully. As different scenes throughout are really gorgeously textured to the scene that goes on underneath.
My name? No, you don't have to say anything you don't want to say. How can I help?
I'm 18 years old, and I have a boyfriend. Sometimes
We only had Nev for, 20 days, Wes?
Yeah.
Her deal was that we had her for 20 days only, so we had to make the most of her time.
That's why she was not predominantly in this, a lot of the early events of the script. Here we are at UCLA, very close to where we shot in Scream 2, scenes with Courtney Cox and David Arquette.
Story, the facts, and the fame. Thank you.
This guy here is David Arquette's brother, one of his two brothers.
Yeah,
right?
Richmond Arquette. Also, of course, an actor.
And next to him is who? Miss Berlin or something like that? A payoff?
I think it's actually a contest winner from
Yeah,
Germany.
exactly.
Who's the blonde woman you see on the right side next to him?
Of course, the intro of Gale Weathers. A lot of our crew members in that audience.
Many, many. It's one of the hallmarks of this film. For some reason, I think the family feeling was so great that the crew is everywhere.
Quite an impressive resume.
Thank you. I assume you're not here for an autograph?
Patrick Dempsey.
Someone killed Cotton?
And his girlfriend.
Yeah, many people have said that Patrick really comes of age in this role, that, playing a mature sort of semi-love interest, he really pulls it off nicely.
It's such a great performance because you like him, yet you're so suspicious of him the whole way through.
Yeah, there's something kind of a little bit seductive about the way he talks, and very intimate, and yet at the same time it's very warm and kind of winning.
Now, that photograph on the left is, of course, of Maureen Prescott. And the actress Lynn McCree, who played Sid's mother in Scream 1, had been an actress in her past, or I guess as an actress. And she's also a flight attendant, but she modeled as a young girl. So we have all these fantastic photos to choose from.
Right.
And she was the mother in the original photograph in Scream 1, who was just, in that one shot behind Sidney when she's on the couch, and here she is here.
Now, this scene, we had Sidney dropping all of the dog food and going down to pick it up as the dog rushed in and would not be put away. That dog saw a payday, and he just went in there and gobbled up that stuff by the handful. So we had to end the scene there.
No more training for me. This is a new version that Ed Gerard and Randy Spenlett had done for us of Nick Cave's Red Right Hand, which figures in all three movies, which plays again at the end of the movie.
That's one of our actual crew members there on the bicycle, I think one of the electricians. This is, of course, Roger Corman straight ahead in the blue tie. One of the great masters of the B-movie in Hollywood, if not the great master.
Scott Foley, Lance Henriksen.
It was your goddamn idea, guys. All right, an ex-con with a trashy talk show, he must have pissed people off every day.
Detectives, there's no reason to presume that Cotton's death had anything to do with this movie.
This other detective is Josh Pice, who played for us in Music of the Heart, and we discovered him there, and Mary and I both enjoyed so much working with him. I think Patrick enjoyed cutting him, too, so that we brought him along on this show.
And he'll probably be in our next movie, too.
Yeah.
Right, Patrick?
Yes.
And Patrick's next movie, Dracula 2000.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hopefully going to find a part for him, whether he's
Great.
one of the cops or...
I mean, what the hell ever happened to her? She's probably off in the woods living like the fucking Unabomber, man.
Marianne, you're great on cast names.
There's Jenny McCarthy, of course, and Emily Mortimer, who is the daughter of Sir John Mortimer. She's English, and we cast her at the last minute, and no one told us that she did not have a working permit. So at the last minute, we had to fly to Vancouver to get one. A little stressful.
Yeah.
It all worked out, and she's fantastic and wonderful, and now starring in a Bruce Willis movie.
Yes.
Dionne Richmond here on the here that you're seeing, the blue shirt.
It's Tyson and Matt Kiesler as Tom, who plays Dewey.
Matt Kiesler turned out to be my second cousin by marriage. We found out on the set from Michigan.
It's a small world.
Yes.
Cue the violins, right?
Sir John Mortimer is an esteemed English writer, we might add, and has done many, many famous television shows for the BBC.
And movies, and written many, many books.
Oh yeah, Tea with Mussolini, right?
Yeah.
His.
He's got quite a resume. A wonderful man.
It's the first kind of look at the Woodsboro set. I think Wes was very clever, and you see it, but you don't really quite know what you're seeing, so that when you do save the big reveal for later.
Parker Posey, of course, is Jennifer Jolie, absolutely hysterical. And behind her
Patrick Warburton.
is Patrick Warburton from Seinfeld fame. We cast Parker pretty early on, and we were, of course, thrilled to have her. She's got such great comic timing.
I think, yeah, this was one of the most successful combinations of actors, I think, in the movie. Everybody sort of raves about Parker and Courtney's, sparring and combining friendship and sort of hatred.
Jennifer, Nick said you wanted to...
Of course, here's Courtney and David, newly married, David Arquette. They had just returned from their honeymoon, I think 3 days before we started shooting.
Well, surprise, surprise.
You can see in the later on we'll have this scene that was the first thing we shot, and they both have terrible suntans. It's like completely ridiculous, but we could do nothing about it.
I think they were in the Bahamas. Of course, we loved picking out Parker Posey's clothing to match Gale Weathers from Scream 1, and the lipstick and the hair. We had a ball with that.
She didn't have the green gum, though.
Oh, darn.
I guess it does make sense for her to chew gum, though.
So this is a Stu's house behind, if you recognize that from the first movie, an exact copy of Stu and Billy's lair.
And the boat, of course, which Sid fell in.
Right.
You work here?
Yeah. The movie needed a technical advisor.
I think you could probably graph the hair colors of Courtney Cox throughout this movie, couldn't you, Marianne? I mean, we kept changing it to try to make it look better.
Hey, it's the real Gale Weathers.
Real from top to bottom.
Tom Prince. Watch your show all the time. You're so right. Pop culture is the politics of the 21st century.
Thank you.
And that story that you did last month on me crashing my car, wow, was that ever powerful journalism?
Right.
It was interesting, and when we did this, we never previewed this movie, so a lot of the humor and things, and even some of the scares, we were never sure quite where they were and quite how they worked. And the first time I think we all saw it with an audience was at the premiere, and how so many of these scenes played so much funnier than I think we had ever expected they would.
Absolutely. It was something I don't think we've ever done. Wes has shown a movie, at least for 10 years, shown a movie without previewing it, without testing it.
Right, and that's a direct result of the internet sort of, surge of people trying to find out the endings of pictures and putting them on the internet. So we never felt secure in having a public test screening.
Which was kind of fun.
It was actually kind of fun, kind of scary.
It's kind of fun, kind of scary, but it was really kind of delightful to see.
Yeah.
To see, wow, I don't know, I didn't expect that, or because when you live with it for so long,
right,
and so intimately, things become less effective for you. And it's great to see it with an audience who is right there and right into it and getting so much out of it than you are.
All right, we're coming up on one of our big cameos, which is
Silent Bob and Jay.
Yeah, I was waiting to come. Yeah,
sorry,
Kevin Smith. That's all right, and Silent Bob and Jay, and but the one that you'll easily miss. There's Sarah Beach.
Lisa Beach, our
casting director, is the tour guide.
Look to the left of the screen. Keep looking past Silent Bob and Jay. You'll see Wes Craven with a video camera and Peter Deming, our DP, eating popcorn.
I think most of the assistant editors walked through at the beginning of that show.
Yes.
Yeah, and also most of the camera crew too.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Peter Deming, you might remember as Popcorn Boy in Scream 2. He was the guy at the movie theater counter selling popcorn.
And pop. Sid's dad from Scream 1. Flew him down here from San Francisco. He was a local hire when we shot Scream 1 in Santa Rosa. bringing groceries to Sid. I always wondered why he bought her those squashes and things, but
Don't ask.
seemed to be on the list for some reason.
Dad, did you bring my squashes? Yeah, in the bag.
But he was great. I mean, he was wonderful in Scream 1, and he was, I think some people thought we may have brought him back to be the killer in Scream 3. I certainly got that from a lot of people.
Yeah, me too. I got many comments that I thought for sure it was the dad. That's why you brought him back.
Well, he was a big suspect in 1 for some reason. I guess since he went away and was gone for so long.
And I think he's kind of a natural suspect in terms of, especially in this story, with everything having to do so much with the mother, that I think, aside from us who knew who the killer was, that people often point to him as being maybe even the mastermind of the first movie.
Right.
Right. There's the famous photo, right, Patrick?
Yeah, from Scream 1. There it is, in a very similar scene, reminiscent from the Scream 1 experience.
Lynn McCree playing Maureen Prescott. Creepy.
A wonderful Hammer film moment. I was like this when we saw these days. This was very exciting.
We had kind of had a dueling theme going on here with Sydney. One was her as kind of the public recluse, and another was kind of suggesting that she might have lost a bit of her sanity by the events of the first 2 films. So we built this up, starting with the nightmare and also going on in subsequent scenes with strange voices on the telephone and so forth. But this was a very good jump in the theater, that's for sure. All I remember from this is their fake fingernails kept falling off.
Todd Toon our sound supervisor, did a great job with the whole sound of her hands on the glass and the treatment of, and the mixers did a great job in the treatment of her voices, along with Marco and everybody all worked together in the scene to make it incredibly creepy.
To say nothing of the wonderful cutting, Patrick.
They'll do it to you.
I love the cowardly dog here. So clearly she has a problem and he's just bugging out and looking for the food.
That's why it doesn't appear in the movie until, 2 hours later.
I'm getting out of here.
It's not nice. Sarah Darling. Jenny was great to work with. Knew her lines, just ready, prepared, delightful.
She was really great, and the crew really loved her, too, because of she was so well prepared and not bad to look at either.
Her fiancé was on the set at all times, John Asher, and they are now married.
And he's a director?
He directed Diamonds, starring her.
Step 3. Jesus, I gotta get a new agent. Ronan? Someone here?
You always know when the scare comes because it's going to get really quiet.
Tyson, go to hell.
Well, excuse us, Sarah. Makeup test.
Well, Patrick cheated a little bit on that because that is the expectation in the previous jump with the mother coming up. We had her sort of off-screen muttering, the mother saying, you won't believe what they did to me. And she sort of talks the whole time, so you're kind of straining your ears to hear what she's saying when the jump comes. But it's always a perennial problem in this kind of film of knowing or figuring out how to best do the jump. Do you have the music continue playing, or do you have it stop, or does the audience know that it's going to come after the stop? We're constantly in the editing room trying various combinations.
Oh, shit.
It's always got a great laugh. Her in the screenings that I saw, just her breaking the statue.
I know.
Well, she has very good comedy, chops here. Her sense of timing is great, and uses her face really well.
What character? I'm Candy, the chick who gets killed second. I'm only in 2 scenes.
You're not happy with your part.
This is part of the cleverness of Aaron's script that, that we have actresses playing real characters who are saying things that are exactly true both for their part in the script and for eventually what's going to happen to them. So you have this kind of haunting sense that you're not sure quite what reality is and what is contrivance.
28. Yeah, Candy's big moment.
Page 20. Ring, ring. Hello.
Hello?
Who's this?
Who's this?
This is Candy. Hang on, let me get some clothes. See? I don't understand why I have to start the scene in the shower.
So when you do the scene, you have Scott playing Roman. He's just in the next room, and he's just on the phone. Because it's all done live. Scott's voice wasn't added later. It was interacting with her in the same space, which I think makes the whole thing very effective.
And whenever possible, we always try to have the actual actor there on the other side of the phone rather than have a script person reading the lines. It just seems to make a huge amount of difference.
Makes cutting it really easy, too.
It's not the line.
It is in my script.
Has there been another goddamn rewrite? How the fuck are we supposed to learn our lines when there's a new script every 15 minutes?
It's not just a new...
Of course, we said that line to each other all the way through the shoot.
It's my favorite line.
It's the cinema verite moment.
Because the crew was screaming at us, the cast was screaming at us because there would be new scenes every day. And sometimes on the day. Did you take out, I'm a professional, I can't work this way?
I believe we did. We shortened part of that.
You. I've never noticed that before.
Oops. Oh, well, too late now.
Here comes the famous, we won't say. Yet.
Somebody who's been, in all three Screams, varying parts.
Oh, come on, let's say.
The killer.
I don't think you have to say it until you see it. You've got to build it out.
Yeah, okay.
And that could be one of, the trivia question of who is he in each of the...
That would be good.
In each of the Scream movies. He's a little hard to find in Scream 1. You got to look for him.
He's in there once, right?
He's in two shots, but kind of in the background.
With CW?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for calling Sunrise Picture Studios. If you'd like today's commissary menu, press 1.
Dan Arredondo.
This is Dan Arredondo, our post-production supervisor and...
Co-producer
and
second AD.
Second AD.
An actor.
Brilliant organizer, really a fantastic guy, but we continually throw him into scenes.
He was in Scream 2 as a frat boy,
One of the
wasn't he?
frat boys who harasses Jerry and throws beer up into his face and is laughing giddily with one of the other on-set PAs, John Emery, who's also a security guard here.
Yep.
And then he's one of the cops ushering Cotton Weary into the police car on the TV in Scream 1. This attack on Jenny in here was actually originally cut by my first assistant, Lisa Mauston, who cut this whole thing.
Really? Nasty.
Look, I want to get something straight.
The cafe.
This probably was the noisiest scene that we shot in the entire movie. Traffic, this is Melrose Avenue, which is a big, very popular kind of in-spot avenue in Los Angeles, and the traffic on it was just amazing.
You said you'd never leave Woodsboro. It's the only place that's real. But now you're here.
It has kind of a strange, surreal look to it, to me, whenever I look at it.
I think it was one of the first weeks of shooting, and everybody was still... It wasn't there the end of the first week or the beginning of the second week or something?
Oh, yeah. We had the writer on the set. We rewrote the scene the night before.
And originally, it was like over twice as long as it is now.
Yeah.
So they had so much more dialogue and it was really delving into all the inner details of their backstory of where they had left off in Scream 2 and how they had arrived at Scream 3.
Yeah, it was really an important scene, and so it needed a lot of work to get it right, to sort of show how Dewey was feeling about Gail and et cetera, et cetera.
And that was, I guess, a tricky thing in the editing was always, Wes and I wrestling back and forth of how much of it is enough and how much is too little and trying to find, the right balance of information and keeping the story propelling forward.
Mm-hmm.
All of what, Dewey? You do know
I think we struck the nice balance here. You sort of get the facts that they lived together in Woodsboro for a while and it didn't work out, but kind of lost a lot of the fat that wasn't necessary to know.
Yeah, and then I think we very quickly kind of arrived to the crux of the matter is the fact that Dewey's really there because there's something going on with Sydney, and eventually all roads lead back to Sydney Prescott and where she is, and that somebody's trying to find her.
And he's really there, obviously, to protect Sid and not just to have a sort of a...
Hollywood moment.
Exactly. Dewey wouldn't just want that.
I said off the record.
Courtney, of course, has all her Bulgari jewelry on, which they loaned to us.
Which I guess originally was so loud.
Really?
The sound of it clinking and clacking away, I think a lot of it had to be taped down or something, or taped down in subsequent scenes. It posed an interesting challenge for the sound mixing, was cutting around her, the sound of her jewelry clacking away.
Always kills you in movies. Never put jewelry on your actors. Now, whose house is this, Wes?
This is Randall Kleiser, who was a director of widely known repute. He directed Grease and Blue Lagoon and
Flight of the Navigator and
many other films. And
Fantastic
he rents out his house. It has this fabulous view. And really, with extraordinary luck, we shot on a series of days that had beautiful clear weather, which for Los Angeles is not that
full
often.
Moon,
yeah,
right?
full moon we have in it. So we just really got the best out of this location.
There's been a second murder.
Who?
And we, of course, this is not his furniture. We furnished it ourselves, our production designer, Bruce Miller. And the fun thing, at that point, Courtney Cox actually, who Parker Posey sort of modeled after, her character Jennifer, was going through a total modern streak in her home decorating. So it was kind of fun duping what Courtney really had in her home. Or at least mirroring it.
All right. I've seen like that big sort of bubbly chair behind Parker right there. I've seen in very, very high fashion magazines. I think that thing probably is worth like $40,000.
Yeah, rented.
It's kind of a very funny moment at the end there where Parker jumps up into Patrick Warburton's hands. I often don't know if he expected that or not. Because at the end of each take, then she did a whole variety of things.
Something different every time. One time she said, "Just sing me a song."
One time she kind of ran and kind of cried in the back room.
She was hysterical.
It was interesting about Parker is whenever she was on the crew, the electricians and everybody would try to get into the room to watch her takes because she was so funny.
She'd always do something a little bit unique in each one, which was kind of fun.
Stone, I'm headed to the crime scene. You stay by Jennifer's side. I suggest a search of the grounds.
Hey, Dewdrop. You can have a word. Just so it can be straight. I'm the professional celebrity guard here. My resume lists Julia Roberts, Salman Rushdie, Posh Spice. You are the Hollywood hanger-oner. Because you're just no good as a cop anymore. Your resume reads like the obituaries. So how about you take suggestions from me? Aight?
Whatever you say.
Same deal? Found with the body?
Yeah, Maureen Prescott again.
Here's one of our continuity errors here.
Wardrobe?
No, 10 more murders and we'll have a calendar, but there's been more than 2 murders.
There's been 3.
Uh-huh.
Whoops.
But I think the scene was written before... there was always 3, but Christine, when she fell out of the closet, you kind of even forgot she was there. But once she was a major kind of character at the beginning, she never was really tallied into the rest of the movie.
Right, so it should be 9 more murders and we'll have a calendar.
Because there was only 1 picture at that crime scene, but 2 deaths, right?
Yeah,
right.
So only had 2 pictures.
I guess in terms of the photographs left, it makes sense that if there's 10 more murders, then I guess it's 10 more murder scenes. I don't know. It gets complicated.
Yeah, it gets a little long.
Isn't there a wardrobe problem here too, or we shouldn't point that out? Probably.
Oh, why not?
What is it like?
It's Dewey's shirt. This is the shirt that Dewey wears at the party, and not the shirt he was just wearing up at the house, which Courtney's clearly in the same wardrobe here.
That's right.
I think this would have been more evident. There was a scene that we actually cut out in between the scene with David and Courtney in the car after the scene with Patrick Warburton when Dewey leaves him up at the house, where they talk about how, Hollywood, your creations turn on you. And there, I think if you'd seen that scene and then come down here with the shirt being different, it may have been more problematic. But I think it goes by and nobody notices, so Sheila Waldron's safe.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Sheila. And wardrobe, but...
What? You? Why you?
Do you think this wasn't a message?
Roman Bridger.
What? Mr. Bridger, you didn't tell us you
If you look here, Patrick Warburton seems to have very long sideburns, which he didn't have earlier.
Very long sideburns, and he's quite a bit thinner.
We wondered if maybe he was playing Elvis, but just didn't tell us in some off, Broadway show.
There's actually a few sideburn things to watch throughout the movie. At the end, in the final scene, if you watch Scott's eyebrows, Scott's sideburns, they get longer and shorter depending on what shot you're looking at.
Sarah Darling said you did. Someone's trying to ruin my movie. Someone wants to kill my movie.
All right, we'll talk about your movie down at the station.
We had big discussions about those sideburns on Patrick Warburton. Makeup and hair swore they were the same. He must have paid him off.
Yeah. This is a scene, I guess, that mirrors in Scream 1, the arresting of Billy. We see it at Sid's house is pretty much the arresting of Roman. The arresting of the prime suspect who was later freed.
Mm-hmm.
Shot of Dad, just to kind of remind you that he's still very much a suspect.
Now here's the second place. We had a different version of this scene, actually, but we went with the version where the voice turns into the mother's voice, so we begin to question perhaps a little bit of Sidney's sanity.
Yeah, the other version was another very much a game, kind of a game version, was it not? It's much more along the lines of the killer talking about other movies, talking about the Terminator, talking about Silence of the Lambs, and probably more in keeping with that movie theme of the other two movies, but this seemed to be more appropriate to this movie.
That's right, we shot it both ways on the same day.
Right.
Just because we were writing so quickly and we wanted to protect ourselves.
All this talk about writing quickly, we just got kind of a late start on this picture because of a few little bumps at the head, so when we actually got going, Aaron Kruger had a very, very short time to write the script. He did a fabulous job, but he continued to write while we were shooting. We had him locked in an office, and he would send out pages, and we'd practically run them out to the set and shoot them. So we, if we had two versions of something, we would simply shoot it both ways, and occasionally we'd go back and reshoot a scene also.
This is one of those instances based on how fast things were written. The TV reporter was shot twice because in the original version he was talking about deaths that occurred in the scene after this as opposed to this, what had happened before, which we caught. It was like, oh, so I remember you guys banged that off really quickly and worked seamlessly.
I think this is a good indication of Patrick Warburton here, just getting a lot out of very little, very subtle things that he does. I mean, he never does anything big. That little turn there gets a laugh from an audience every time.
Scene 34. Maureen's murder flashback.
Dewey obviously just coming back from having phoned Sidney and scaring the crap out of her, or maybe not.
Yeah, we always made sure, that people were just coming out of doing suspicious-looking things right after a scary scene, so that you would think maybe they were the guilty one.
Very reminiscent of what he does in Scream 1 when Sidney's on the phone with the killer at Tatum's house, and then he kind of comes out at the end as like after he's taken far too long to come out of his room when everybody's calling for him.
Right.
I bet she stepped on any poor girl that got in her way.
So you asked her out and she said no?
There's nothing to do with it.
Right. Come on, Dewey.
Scene 50. Dewey saves...
There was originally another scene with Matt Kiesler and Emily Mortimer where he kind of does ask her out. That was cut out earlier in the picture. And they're sitting on the porch.
Here's a case where we had her ring the doorbell, but then we shouldn't have, because they should have heard it and should have come to the door. But we just did put the sound effect in, and somehow we got away with it.
Yeah, nobody seems to notice that, there's no sound, so clearly nobody heard anything. Off we go.
We did some healthy trimming in here. The other day I was watching this and saying, I don't think his lips are moving, but his voice is coming out. But
yeah, that's very true. And there's cigarettes not in her mouth between those previous two cuts, and then suddenly she's blowing smoke out. But,
But other than that,
it's just, you just kind of go with it. The frames keep going through the projector, and you don't notice such things. because I think we cut almost a minute out of this scene, and just in trimming here, there, and everywhere. And we changed the order of it as well. That scene where they actually look at the photograph was originally was the button of the scene at the end of the scene, and then put it in the middle so that we could get to that moment much quicker.
Look who I found slinking around the yard, the nightly news.
I wasn't slinking. I was walking.
You were eavesdropping.
This was another scene that had a longer ending originally, where Patrick Warburton goes over to Parker and starts talking baby talk to her or something. And she was all very upset.
Did you know they released Roman? Sarah's call didn't come.
This scene was much longer too, wasn't it?
Yeah, originally started with David frisking Courtney. And it was just in the middle part of the movie, there was always a concern that we needed to keep everything moving and divulging all the information we had to get out and keeping all the suspects and everybody alive. So we just did a lot of trims through here just to get everything moving along.
Almost her whole life.
This is a scene where she calls Sarah Stera. I think there's almost every character throughout the movie calls somebody by the wrong name.
Yeah, when Jenny walks into the office there, she calls Roman Ronan.
She must have just seen the movie or something. There's also, it seems that everybody has at least one scene where they look directly at the camera. I think there's a couple of cases of that in this.
Oh, I never noticed that.
Yeah. It's just, you can freeze them on the editing machine, and then suddenly you see there's a frame where they're just staring right into the lens.
What?
Jennifer.
Jennifer?
The end of the scene I think we cut before Courtney exits, so you get the feeling that David is left alone. So from the next scene, when there's the call to Patrick Warburton in the trailer, it's very possible that it is David. See, so we keep her there because originally the very next frame she moves and starts to follow him out. So it seemed to be always important that you get the feeling that people are just about to be alone or they're just about to be separate.
Right.
Stevenston Protection Services.
The head of this scene, I think, by the way, has one of the most accurate depictions of coyotes howling in Los Angeles. We went through many, many, many sound effects.
Yeah, I believe Todd had to look far and wide for that.
Because coyotes, when they howl, don't howl like the classic Wolfman movie. They kind of go hysterically crazy in large groups. So if you go back and listen to that, that's what they really sound like.
Sure there's no killer in here waiting off you like he did your little sister.
This was a scare that I think we had always kind of wrestled with, and Wes came up with the idea of just keeping Dewey talking kind of this kind of hurt way, so that you're very surprised when the scare comes out. At one point, we'd even talked about cutting it out, and it turns out when you actually screen it with an audience, it's one of the most effective scares in the movie.
Yeah, well, originally David was talking in a tone that was much more reprimanding. He was like angry, which would make sense. And that sort of set you up to expect something angry to happen. So we changed it to him acting very hurt and tentative, and then gives you a jump.
Which seems like a more Dewey-esque thing to do.
Jennifer?
This is all shot on location, by the way, the great house.
And that trailer that Patrick Warburton was in was actually on the grounds. In fact, at first we'd written it as a guest house, right, Wes?
Right.
And we scouted the location and found this cute trailer I guess Randall Kleiser had found on a movie and bought and keeps there and people live in it. Worked perfectly for Dewey's home.
This is one of my favorite sequences in the movie, just as a director. It's kind of this mounting hysteria and craziness and lights going off and fax machines spewing paper. And at one point, Peter Deming, the cinematographer, told me, this is never going to work. You're never going to be able to have a sense of danger because if you turn the lights out, nobody's going to believe that they can read. I mean, it went on, and somehow it all works in a very crazy way. I think it in a way, it's driven by the engine of Parker Posey's sort of hyper energetic line readings, which are just tumbling on top of each other. They're so fast.
It's almost like anything said with you say it with conviction, whether it be true or not, you're just going to believe it.
Yeah, and she says it so clearly, but so fast.
Interior Jennifer's house, living room night, the script page. Oh, what's it say? The bodyguard stabbed to death. The 5 stand trapped.
He's rewriting the movie.
As the killer waits outside, suddenly the fax machine sends news to their face.
It's a trap! Everybody outside! Outside where he can pick us off one by one?
The killer prepares to grant mercy to only one of them.
Get it? The killer says he's outside because he wants us here inside.
Of course, there's the convenient green light on the power supply that even though the power's off, there is power for the fax machine.
That's right, it's backup power.
Don't we say that?
We used to say that. We actually got rid of that.
Oh.
We sort of were pointing to the too much.
There's
our
full moon.
There's our full moon.
Here's a great use of ADR, all the additional people calling to him and asking him what it says and everything like that was very effective.
Yeah, and done later. And this is probably the first death by gas in a movie that I've seen. Murdering by gas. And this is a process. This is a 1/4 scale model of the house, which we have. We have one take to get it. At least the company that did this for us, and they did a great job.
Gene Warren and Fantasy 2 did that for us.
Thanks. I like it in the Falling Down the Hill, Parker has a line, "I can't stop falling down this hill."
Is that still there?
It's still there, Marianne.
Yes, that's still there.
Oh.
Jennifer!
This is a wonderful stereo moment of Gale on one side and Gale on one side and Jennifer on the other, and which way he's going to go.
This was what, Griffith Park?
Griffith Park in Los Angeles, yeah.
We created that whole street, these street lights, those walls. It's just wilderness, really, there. In fact, someone came by and wanted to know if some of the houses were for sale. And then some people were mad that somehow they didn't notice some houses were built overnight. Some of the local residents.
Never been better. Yeah, all right. Oh. Where'd he go?
He rolled out of the car.
All right, stay close.
Dogs barking. Wes is always very good about making sure all the wildlife is keenly featured.
And the right bird for the right area and the right time of day.
Well, actually, I've been doing that since my first movies. I've always felt like animals, dogs barking and birds and so forth, not just singing away, but responding in a way to the action are very effective because that really does happen, and we're usually not aware of it except subconsciously.
And like kind of wonderful harbingers of doom.
Thanks for saving me.
Let's have it.
This is, I think, a great scene between Courtney and David. It really plays off of their actual relationship, I feel. I love the way she winds up. She kind of builds her fists up. And it's just like you can hear the gears working. That it's very effective.
Who's her Sunset Boulevard moment?
This was her improvisation, wasn't it, Marianne?
Yeah.
I think she did 2 or 3 different versions of that, too.
Right there, there's Sunset Boulevard.
Norma Desmond.
Norma Desmond.
And
here we are trying to make Emily Mortimer into a suspect, right?
She's come out from nowhere.
Well, she doesn't come out from that far away, much farther away than
I know.
Parker did.
But just because you lose track of her, I mean, it was very cleverly done up top. And then here she is coming out of nowhere. Then,
where did she roll to? What was she doing over there?
And what made Dewey think to turn around there? I don't know.
The wind.
Clever direction.
Okay, we're coming up on the first day of shooting, the next scene, right?
Here we go. Which I really didn't want to shoot the police station scenes first because I knew we still had to work out the dialogue, but the production team surprised me, and all of a sudden we were.
But check out the tans on Dewey and Gale.
And wasn't Patrick just hired like the day before? He had to show up?
Yeah, Patrick cut his pages that morning, I think.
It was awful because he had a lot of dialogue.
Tons of dialogue.
3 scenes, right?
And day 2 was the scene with him and Sydney that appears later. And from these scenes, you get so much of his character, and he does such a wonderful job.
And he just, it was not fun for an actor.
But he nailed it.
He did. He sure did.
He was a total pro.
This was shot in an actual abandoned police station in North Hollywood.
That's right. North Hollywood Police Station. Recently abandoned, really. Why we shot there, I don't know, because we don't really use anything of the police station because we built those rooms. Here, of course, in the back, we established that Patrick Dempsey's character is into movies. You can see the posters.
Kiss Me Deadly and Murders at the Rue Morgue.
The issue is Sidney Prescott, and either Mr. Riley is going to obstruct justice or he's going to put me in touch with her. So, Where is she?
Hi, you've reached the machine. You can leave a message, talk as long as you want.
Sid, it's me. This is the 5th time I've called. Please pick up. I want to make sure you're okay.
This is a wig on Sid. She was shooting 2 different things at the same time. One was Drowning Mona and one was Party 5. And on Drowning Mona, she had streaked hair, long hair, streaked kind of blonde and black. And so we had to create half of a wig. And every day it took 2 hours to get her hair to look right. Because then later she wasn't doing Drowning Mona and had the extensions taken out. It was really hard to do 3 things at once and have different hair for all of them.
It's been
it certainly works.
Kind of typical with Nev. She's gotten very hot, and between the seasons, in sort of hiatus of shooting Party of 5, she quite often would be just coming off of another feature and just going on to another.
God, Sydney. You ran fast or what? Hi.
Miguel, I'm glad you're all right. Thank you.
Sid, this is Detective Kincaid.
Nice to finally meet you, Sydney.
The killer called her.
What? When?
What do you say? Oh, the usual small talk. Let you know how you been, how do you want to die.
Sydney, do you have any idea how he could have gotten your number?
Well, he could have monitored calls on a scanner. Did you call?
There's originally a different entrance for Sydney there that we had cut for a very long time, where she actually admonishes Gail, saying, you're not going to break up with Dewey again. And I think for Wes and everybody, it always played too hard, that she was treating her too hardly. And then we went back to the footage and found this other version, and using the cut of Patrick looking kind of suspicious or intriguing or whatever he looks, which is really effective. Then their relationship seems much nicer. And they parted on very friendly terms.
Yeah, I think the audience remembers more the fact that, Gail and Sidney were together at the very end of Scream 2, rather than thinking of the backstory of Gail and Dewey and breaking up in Woodsboro, which was never seen, as a backstory to Scream 3.
Detective, I want to see this place in the pictures.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Watch the fucking aliens.
There's your aliens, Wes.
I refuse to comment on them. We shot that twice, and they never look like aliens.
What do they look like?
They look like some guys with some sort of masks over their head. I wanted full costumes. I wanted aliens, damn it.
Something like when we worked at Paramount, you used to see all the Star Trek extras walking around.
Yeah, right. That's what I wanted.
That stairwell over there, that's where one of the...
There's our AD on the left.
Oh, yeah.
Editorial PA riding by.
Heather Matarazzo from Welcome to the Dollhouse fame. Randy's sister.
This doesn't look like it, but this was the hottest day of the shoot. Everybody was fainting. It was so hot. The magic of film.
Yeah, can't you tell?
We miss you in Woodsboro, guys. Martha, what are you doing here? There's something you guys should see.
Told you I'd make a movie someday.
So here is Randy. Here's our first intro to Randy, who we resurrected on video.
Was not the video stuff? Was not the first day of shooting? Or early in the shoot?
Early in the shoot. And when we shot Randy himself on stage, we literally were writing that as we were shooting.
Because I remember there being almost 2 hours worth of Randy.
He couldn't remember a single line. He was horrible. Jamie, if you're listening.
He was very pesky, but of course talented. And we were so thrilled to come up with some way of getting, Randy back into the Scream series. We even thought about bringing him back alive. We had a storyline that he actually had survived the stabbing and his family had whisked him away to safety. And he'd been recuperating and he would come back during this movie. But we decided, no, we better not. And
cooler minds prevailed.
Cooler minds prevailed, but, we can't get enough of him. But at least we have him here.
If you find yourself dealing with an unexpected backstory and a preponderance of exposition, then the sequel rules do not apply, because you are not dealing with a sequel.
David Arquette kept wanting to eat hot tamales, candy during the scene, and I was trying to convince him that it was too serious to eat hot tamales.
Yeah, this was another scene that was originally 2 or 3 times as long. There was Randy did so much stuff that we had cut a very lengthy version.
A lot of yammering.
Here are some super trilogy rules. 1, you got a killer who's going to be superhuman.
Many moments of genius just whittled down to these select few to shower on the audience.
And he shines. We had a hard time here thinking about how does this tape arrive to the gang, and we came up with the idea that Randy had a sister who was also sort of a movie geek, and that she escaped from Woodsboro and brought this tape to them. First it was a messenger, it was whomever, and finally we came up with a sister character.
The big question got to be, how did she get on the lot since they're supposed to have this high security? But we just shined that one on.
I think we say game show, don't we?
Is that still in?
I don't even know if that's... I'm not sure if that's still in there. I don't
think anyone...
the trick ultimately was, let's get through it as quickly as possible and nobody will notice.
And no one did? They forgive you a lot.
These are all our trucks, by the way. This is our entire entourage back here.
We saved money.
Originally, Randy said, never be alone, which we cut out because here, Courtney Cox immediately goes off alone.
Those other pictures were taken. I can see nothing's changed.
No.
Can I lean on this?
Yeah, that looks great.
Hello?
This is one of Patrick's great cuts of, there was a very elongated scene here where she was like trying out various credit cards and so forth. Patrick, when I came into the editing room, had just cut to the jump, and it works beautifully.
What the hell are you doing? I am Gail Weathers. Here's how I see it. I've got no house, no bodyguard, no movie, and I'm being stalked.
Parker being great, speaking incredibly fast.
She's really good at that.
That way, if someone was to kill me, I'll be with
It's strange. She's half ditzy and half smart, and I mean, her character is, and she has this way of saying a line suddenly very quietly that just makes you laugh, and like that.
And she speaks very fast, and you can understand everything she says, which is, it seems to be a real trick.
Yes.
Don't tell me what to do.
This is, I think, the last shot of Principal Photography.
That's right. It was, yeah. And on the last take, the girls came around the corner and pulled a Scooby-Doo doll out of the this little alcove here.
Making a joke of our script, which they said was very Scooby-Doo.
It was an homage to the wonderment of Scooby-Doo.
There you go, Patrick.
There you go.
It was all positive.
Now, Marianne, why don't you tell us how Carrie got involved in this?
I think it was actually Harvey's idea, Harvey Weinstein, chairman of Miramax. And he just loved the idea of Carrie Fisher as a cameo. And then when she was interested, and we brought her on board, and she did a little rewrite. And she loved the whole idea of making fun of herself, making fun, actually, of Carrie Fisher. So she was played along real well and helped us with the script.
It's not too shabby having Carrie Fisher doing rewrites for you.
No, we were thrilled. And she was really fun.
Tell you who you look like.
How about some information on Maureen Roberts?
I don't work for the cops, sweetie. I work for the studio.
Really? Well, would you work for the president?
The president of the studio.
$50? Who are you, a reporter for Woodsboro High?
I think that was Parker's line, right?
I believe so.
It's worth $2,000. Are you gonna help
It's another thing that went on and had different textures and everything down. It was a matter of finding the just the magic moments. I like this because you never really notice it there, but she's actually wearing the ring that Parker just gave her. Which I think is great fun as she's rifling through the files.
And she didn't want to do that either. Wes, do you really want me to do that?
What, the ring thing?
Yeah.
Oh. That was in and out of the script a couple times, but I think it works really well.
A non-too-subtle musical moment. as our two leads look up, which is, very effective, and
very cute.
Always good to be as subtle as a chainsaw.
Now, this is a cut we made. You can write us in and tell us whether it worked. We had a whole scene where Sidney said to Dewey, "Well, I'm going to go into the bathroom," or something like that, and he said some line to her, and she said, "Don't worry, nothing's going to happen." So we felt that gave it away too much, so we just cut right to her being in here.
Yeah, I think she originally said, "I'll be right back," and to which he said, "You can't say that. That means you're going to die," based on Randy's rules from the first movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of reflections here of the first movie. Obviously, there's a scene in the bathroom at the high school that's very similar to this, where she gets attacked.
The ghost boots on everyone.
It's even a scene in of course, in the second film in the bathroom with poor Omar.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Oh.
So
that's our bathroom
kind
sequences.
of a bathroom motif. So following that line, one would immediately assume then that Emily Mortimer must, in fact, be the killer, as the killer always shows up in the bathroom.
In the script, there were supposed to be multiple cell phones and all sorts of things that she had clearly stolen, but as souvenirs. But it never quite came off that way. But the mask becomes the focus, and actually it worked better that way. You might notice that Sidney is wearing the necklace given to her by her boyfriend in Scream 2 from his fraternity. I think that was Nev's idea, wasn't it, Marianne?
Yeah.
It's kind of nice because that ended up being such a useful weapon for her at the end of Scream 2 when she takes out Mickey's eye.
Right.
And when you see it there, you're thinking that, it's also not only a remembrance of what she did before, of remembrance of Jerry, but also it was in fact a useful thing for her. And going back into the situation, she's kind of bringing all her tools.
This next sequence was one of the more... We knew it was going to be a powerful sequence, this introduction to the sort of semi-reality of Sidney walking back into her own life by entering the sets of her high school days of Scream 1. But interestingly enough, it jumped around a lot in the story. Originally, this whole sequence, or a sequence like it, was going to be the ending of the movie. And ended up in this position. We felt it was better to really set the theme of the presence of the mother earlier into the picture.
Such a great way to see all the things from Scream 1. You get it's like a flashback without having to do a flashback.
Right.
Seeing the van where Kenny gets killed, seeing the house where the party was, and right across it, of course, being Sidney's house. You look up at the window, you're waiting for a shadow to walk by.
Right, that was the bedroom where she was seduced by Billy.
And of course, the garage where poor Tatum met her unfortunate end.
Broken beer bottles right there.
Right, and the refrigerator door open.
And the cat door with blood on it. I thought that was a great shot because you seem so alone in there. You're just waiting for something else to happen.
This is a great thing that Patrick did in the editing room of having the voices. I don't think this was scripted at all, but hearing the voices of her conversation in the room preceding her saying that the one line she says here, "Would you settle for a PG version?" So that before she even says the line, you hear the past coming up around it.
We originally had tried doing that all the way from the first time she sees the house, starting to pepper in pieces from the first movie, but it seemed like too much, and I think Wes was right just to do this moment and then where we do it later. And it's kind of nice because you have Billy as kind of the nice seducer who she obviously had very strong feelings for, and then later when we hear his voice again, it's Billy the absolute villain.
Right. It's interesting that. Because the script was kind of written, on the fly, we commissioned these stages. That is, legally bound ourselves to pay rent on the stages and built sets before we had any of the scenes that we were going to shoot on them. We just had the notion that we wanted to have some kind of a sequence on the set. So Bruce Miller, our production designer, went out and built this incredible reproduction of Sidney's house, and then we sort of walked around it and made up the scene.
This is a wonderfully effective scare because you're so looking at that door and thinking of course, what happened in the first film is whatever's going to happen is going to come flying through the door. And Wes was very clever with the wind moving that door, and then that's not where he is at all.
Yeah, it's kind of classic misdirection. Is once a character in a horror film turns their back to a window, you know it's going to come from there. But if you're looking at the door, then you'll forget that for a moment. And this is almost shot for shot a replication of the original sequence in Scream 1, which makes it all the more haunting. So she's throwing movie props at him instead of things from her actual house.
That's a great moment when she flips open the door open, and you see that little piece of wood fall, which just totally sells that she is in a very precarious place.
Yeah, I added that after the first or second take, and I think it was remembering the old cliffhangers where you always see somebody kick a rock off the cliff so you can tell, how far down it is.
And it's totally effective. I mean, just completely sells the danger at the moment. This was a great moment seeing this with an audience of like 15-year-olds and 20-year-olds and things on opening night, and hearing them react the second they hear Mom's voice and that psst, come here. It was total kind of fear and doom and like, oh my God, don't go in there.
Protect you from the boogeyman. Come into the bed.
This is something we never actually saw in Scream 1, this room, this set, or the murder scene, but we heard tell of it all the time. So the audience kind of knows where they are even without never having seen it.
You didn't protect me.
Do me a favor, say that woman was a slutbag whore who flashed her shit all over town like she was Sharon Stone.
Because let's face it, Sidney, your mother was no Sharon.
Return to both Billy and Stu, offering their insights into Sidney's mother.
And Sharon Stone.
Poor Sidney, we're so cruel to her here. So sick.
That was a very hard stunt. That stunt woman had to fall many times, and we finally put a gym mat under the grass for that one shot, and she was able to crash down.
Bounce a little.
Without killing herself.
The killer's in the house, Dewey. He's upstairs. And my mother.
Let's go.
Patrick, I won't say anything here.
About the fact that her head's up and then her head's down? That's what you won't say?
Yeah, I won't say anything about this next cut.
Sorry you had to see that.
He was in there, Dewey. He was in there.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I think if you put the sound of a swish, her head would become really fast.
That'll be on Evert's show.
This was, I think, a really effective scene in terms of the continuing of Sidney's sanity, whether she's actually, is crazy or not.
Right.
Which I think was really effective thing emotionally for her.
Yeah, because she's doubting herself, of course, right now.
And Patrick Dempsey, of course, coming in after the event has transpired. And
where was he before?
This is a very funny ad-lib by Dion here, too. Dion.
I always get to laugh. It's good to have kind of a laugh after that very kind of serious moment that you've had before you launch back into it. It seemed very clever that Patrick had these sunglasses on because you can't see his eyes. You have no idea what he's thinking or what he's doing, and then of course she's locked in the car with him. I remember the Miramax executives, Andrew Ronan and stuff, saying at this moment that it just felt like he's driving her off to kill her.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, was this not Sid's last shot?
I believe it was.
Yeah.
Of the movie.
You're right.
Of principal photography.
Possibly was it also Gail and Dewey's too?
I think this was. No,
because you had the stairwell.
No, right.
We shot the Carrie Fisher stuff.
That was Dewey's last one.
This is a great location. Downtown LA. Milton's office. And I think Wes jokingly during the location scout asked for a diving board out the window, as you can see right there on the right-hand side of the frame. And, of course, there it was when we showed up. They took him seriously.
I just thought it would just be something that this producer, who has lots of funny props around anyway, might whimsically have, but also shows that sort of, the jumping off place where it's, the fantasy is a little bit scary of you're either committing suicide or leaping out into some impossible swan dive that will make history in Hollywood.
You're telling some poor executive to go jump in the lake.
Right. Now, I was asked yesterday by a fan whether this robot behind Lance was a nod to the fact that he was in the original Alien.
You knew Sidney Prescott's mother. Who?
Rena Reynolds.
But it wasn't. It was an accident.
I like also the tanning bed in the corner as well. So you have a feeling that he just kind of lies back in there and cooks.
Yeah, there were great props all around this office.
Detective Kincaid to call. I remember. She was a bit player in a couple of my...
Was it not Parker's first day and Lance's first day as well?
It was certainly Lance's first day. I remember that.
This was another scene that was excruciating to shoot because everybody had new pages and kept forgetting lines, and we were shooting and thought it would never work, and it cut together beautifully.
Horror films, that's what I do. The studio came to me with Stab. They came to me. Check it out.
But you knew who she was.
When we did the first...
Everybody has the same color shirt.
They're on the same team. Those be the good guy uniforms.
And now? I mean, murders on your set, and still you say nothing?
Get real. That would...
I've had several people tell us they thought this was a great backdrop until they saw cars driving by and realized it was a real place. The building, I'm sorry, but the building is, I think, semi-abandoned, so it's not a place that most people know about.
So it was very exciting to see that on the big screen, because then you really, I found, having obviously cut the scene so much, is that when you actually saw it projected, all you watched was the cars and the water and the people moving around in the lake, and it's like, wow, it's really real.
What lake is that?
MacArthur Park.
So what's the lake called?
That's where you left the cake out.
In the rain.
In the rain.
And it took so long to bake it.
Lake Los Angeles.
I think it's Lake Erie, maybe. I don't know.
I think it's Los Angeles Lake.
I'm saying things got out of hand. Maybe they did take advantage of her.
Everybody dodging the issue of what really happened to Maureen. Not out and out saying it, so you don't really know. It'll be told to you later, of course, in graphic detail of some sort.
Poor Maureen. She was a victim, as Sid was, in a different way, but Sid prevails. We hope.
This was the first scene I cut in the movie, and even though I started, I think, a week late. And I think this remains my favorite scene in the movie, just because the performances between the two of them are so... they're just so intuitive of each other. And I think we made very few changes to this. And it's also, I think, one of the best scored scenes in the movie. It was beautifully textured and working in both the mother's theme and Sydney's theme.
Right, there's quite a bit of dialogue in it, but the way Marco scored it, and also I think because of Patrick and Nev's skill, each time you think the scene's over, it sort of goes to a different level down, and gets a little deeper into their personalities, and into the suggestion that he might either be a great friend or a great killer, very clever killer.
I'm a homicide detective, remember?
Remember, this is all on his first day of acting.
The violence that people do to each other. You get haunted. I think you know about that.
Just her, that subtle reaction there, just the way she kind of tilts her head. It's just so fascinating to watch and to put that together. It just really felt like magic when it was all cut together.
Yeah, they both use their eyes beautifully. I mean, if you watch his eyes, he has this very strange way of looking away and then turning his head and looking at you sideways and then bringing his face back straight. It's like very effective.
But the best way to stop being haunted is to be with people. You're here. You're not hiding. You've done the right thing, Miss Prescott. What did you know about your mother?
An effective musical stop there that Marco put in, and then boom, it kind of kicks back into the next part of the story.
I always thought I had the perfect mom. Perfect family.
Very little camera work here. Just each time it started a new section, we would just slightly move in a little bit closer to give you the feeling like you were getting to know her just a little bit better.
She had a secret life, and I tried to understand that, and as soon as I thought that I had more secrets.
As soon as I thought I had more secrets.
Yeah, it's the missing comma there.
Who she was to you. Here's the deal. I'm off to search the set. I think what you saw is real. That's the good news.
I love that look, because it looks like she's so desperately trying to figure out whether she can trust him or not.
It means that we're dealing with an ordinary flesh and blood killer. And I know how to handle guys like that.
Oh, yeah? How?
Catch him or kill him.
Hey, detective.
I think the suspiciousness is capped off by the fact that he just learns all these things about her and then leaves. So either he's kind of negligent, or else he's the killer and is going to go off and do something terrible.
At least some hidden dark secret that he's not sharing.
He's a pervert. He's not a killer.
He's got to be involved somehow. We should follow him.
We're gonna go back to the precinct and we're gonna tell Kincaid and Sydney what we found out.
Miguel would be much more aggressive. Miguel would suspect everybody.
We shot this twice, yes, Wes?
Mm,
First time daytime?
First time daytime, came back and reshot it at night and had them a little bit more excited about pursuing the killer, connecting it to Milton.
Again, I think it was just a product of an early draft and everything not quite in the scene as written.
It's one of the, I think, one of the examples of when you actually get the whole movie cut together, you can see that if you go back and maybe retweak one thing, it can raise things up even more effectively.
It's a great luxury to be able to go back and reshoot.
Let me just say a little bit about this location. This was, does anybody have a good enough memory? I bet you guys do, to remember who built this house?
It was built for an old silent film star, I believe a Spanish film star. I
Right.
can't,
Right. Who was married to a sort of a socialite. And I think they were married for a while. They had a very wild, rocky marriage. He had a lot of parties. I think he was quite a womanizer. And somehow she ended up dead. Oh, she drove over a cliff with her chauffeur, and her chauffeur lived. And then I think he lost all his money. And I think after that it was sold to a girls' home for unwed mothers. For many years, it was a home for unwed mothers.
Yeah, I believe owned by the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And there was an apocryphal story that some of the girls have been kept in the basement. I think I'm not making this up. And something horrible had happened down there, if I'm not mistaken,
Right.
that led to the rumors that there were ghosts in the house. Of course, as soon as the crew and cast learned that, they began seeing ghosts everywhere. So we were shooting there many, many, many nights, and people kept seeing faces in the windows and hearing voices in the cellars.
No, this is in Silver Lake, this house, isn't it, Wes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's up on a hill in Silver Lake. It's a beautiful old house, kind of ramshackle, owned by a young woman who just lives in one part of it and sort of rents it out for photo shoots and movies.
It has the three kind of outer bungalows of varying sizes.
Mm-hmm.
I think this house was used by Leonardo DiCaprio for his Millennium Party this year.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the party to go to.
And Patrick, wasn't it used in another movie?
It was the
Yeah.
House in H2O, which played the school in that film, and then I believe it was also in the David and Lisa, which was that TV movie with Lucas Haas and Sidney Poitier last year.
So it's in use a lot, but we found it a great place to shoot.
It was great because we could just own the whole thing because it was virtually empty.
And it looks virtually different in each one of those films.
Yeah.
It has a completely different look, so it's very effective in that regard.
And it has its own secret passages, incidentally, which is a great thing. So we didn't have to necessarily build them all.
What's down there?
Zombies and aliens. You know what you look like without makeup, Jennifer.
Jesus, stop pretending I wasn't the best you've ever had.
Oh, stop pretending I even remember.
We went through every prop house, I think, in Hollywood to find all these old props of scary things.
Roman?
Clinking chains arriving at the silver coffin.
Roman?
A very important sort of ambivalent look on the part of Roman there, so you don't know whether he's scared or acting scared.
This is so strange.
It sure is.
The introduction of the phone device coming up in terms of actually seeing exactly how it works and the fact that it's captured different voices. Originally, there was another scene with a ghost in his lair where you saw him actually putting all the voices and everything in and seeing how he did it, and then cut that out and realize that once you see the little gadget and buttons are pressed, you just go with it.
Plus, it looked really silly to see the ghost sitting at a computer.
With his whole outfit on.
Right.
Because of course you can't have the ghost sitting there without the outfit, because then you know who it is.
Right.
Dewey's got our voice.
So Dewey's voice. Then I think the second one is Roman's voice.
He's got us all.
I think Now, I think we had almost everybody in the cast except for Kale record both those lines. So that when we were in the mix stage, we had all sorts of different choices from Cotton to everybody.
Tyson! Angelina, are you up there?
Roman!
Tyson! Angelina! Damn it. Ah! Oh, okay, come on.
Of course, breaking the basic rule of never separating. The audience always chastises us for this.
But it seems to be actually even part of the fun. It's a haunted house, and things are going to happen to you. So the fact that they do it, it seems to be something that we can get away with, even though you technically shouldn't do it.
Right. Plus, we do have a scene where everybody's together and they get attacked anyway. So, and in broad daylight, or at least
lights on,
lamplight.
Yeah, lamplight. That was in the second movie. It had broad daylight.
What was that? Broad daylight scene, Patrick.
The scene where Randy gets killed.
Oh, in the park.
In the park, which is there's people around and everything, which was, when you read it, you just thought, oh my God, if this works, this will be fantastic. And of course, it worked beautifully.
In this next moment, we actually had a shot where we shot it two ways, one where she just reacts and one where she actually takes his pulse, and then later we had without her taking his pulse, but then we were afraid nobody would believe he was actually dead, so we put the pulse taking back. But we never figured out a way for her to explain, or for Roman to explain later, why he didn't have any pulse here.
You actually had an explanation. When with some of the additional photography that it just seemed too lengthy and we took out. Because I remember being in the cutting room and talking about it, and you actually did it for me to show me how it would work.
Well, that's true. Yeah, we had him
and it completely worked. It was like, my God, you have no pulse.
Yeah, you just put pressure on the artery running down the inside of your arm by your armpit, and there you go with no pulse. But that's very hard for the killer to explain in the middle of the very few ending moments of the film.
So we'll put that out in the brochure.
This was when we cast this movie, there were very few lines that we actually could have people say because we didn't want to give away who was the killer and who was not. So this was Emily Mortimer's casting line. This is the scene we read all the girls. That's the moment that we had them all do. And she was absolutely just stunningly the best. It's also a great dyer.
But of course, is she really dead as you see her dragged off here and being one of the only people the killer drags off? Mm.
Dale, Jennifer!
Well, the truth be told, there were versions. We can go on forever about different versions we had of the script, but we had one where Emily was in on it, or her character rather, was in on the plot and was kind of the girlfriend of the killer. But we couldn't sell it to the studio.
Here's the big 4-on-1 scene where the ghost proves his Jackie Chan merit.
I had to pay somebody $50 to throw that pot accurately enough. I bet him he couldn't do it, and he did it on the first take. I think it was our caterer, wasn't it, or our craft service guy, Nick Mastandrea.
Oh, you motherfucker!
It was one of the rougher stunts, I think, in the movie.
Ooh.
Ouch. No pads there.
That was amazingly effective because there was an A and B camera, but the A camera was in the shot in the lobby, wasn't it? And the B camera was the shot outside, or the shot in the hallway, and it was quite remarkable how those both those tied together so well.
That passageway of this hidden staircase is actually at the house. It's very strange. We built these double mirrors, to suggest that it would be soundproof. And actually, when we got on the set, I could never talk to anybody in the other room because they were completely soundproof. I'd have to go out and go around the whole way.
This is the scene we went back in the cutting room several times, probably the most, in tweaking this and trying to get the right balance of seeing the mirror and seeing Dewey and how he reacts, and then seeing her and what happens to Parker on the other side.
I also have a lot of people that think that Dewey shoots her, but he does not.
He's aiming very high, and he uses all his bullets here. Perhaps foolishly, but, he's in the heat of the moment.
I'm gonna check down here. You call for help.
That's where the audience always goes, oh, if he leaves her alone.
Then he comes right back, so then it's okay, and then she gets jumped anyway, so...
This is a wonderful scare, because she really gets jumped while Dewey's still in the same frame.
Mm-hmm.
That's another reason why I don't want to be a stunt person.
And David's great reactions.
I like the one that comes in just a moment when he gets the telephone call and just can't figure out how she can possibly be calling him.
Dewey!
Gail! Gail! Who is this?
Dewey, it's me.
Gail.
It's interesting in all these movies how the phone is such a weapon, and whenever it rings, everybody reacts with such horror. But it's, obviously the instrument of doom, and it's one of the killer's weapons of choice.
The scene here was actually much longer. They went through a whole review of how they could possibly know it was the real person on the other end of the line. In the trimming down, it got down to something very fast, but we still get kind of a fun laugh here.
And this is such a great moment with the knife flying through the air, and audiences seem to just totally cheer at that moment.
And it was originally written that he got slashed on the arm, and I said, well, that's happened already once before with Dewey, so thought up this wacky idea. I've always seen knives thrown in movies and they always stick, so I thought, well, let's for once, let's have it happen and it lands backwards.
Of course, that works so wonderfully for Dewey, and it's amazing how you see the audience as the knife flies through the air, and people, oh my God, he's going to get it right in the face. You're going to kill him here and now, and then when it goes clonk, and that's the moment that everybody goes, ah, and just thinks that's wonderful. This is the finding of the file. The fact that obviously Patrick Dempsey's character is extremely interested in her.
There's another photograph that Nev gave us from her own family album. I think the very last little shot here of her as a child. Freeze frame on that.
On your DVD.
Hello? Hello? Who is this? Who is this? Who's calling? Who's calling? Gail, Dewey, whoever, call me back. I can only hear myself.
I only hear you too, Sydney.
Someplace along here we should say something in tribute to Roger Jackson, the voice of the killer, who has been, I think, one of our greatest finds, and somebody who usually doesn't get too much credit just because you never physically see him. But the presence of that voice has marked all three films with this sense of foreboding and threat and sophistication and intelligence. He's got just a wonderful voice.
We found him up in Santa Rosa. He was from San Francisco, and he was a local hire. And I think at the beginning we were just going to use him temporarily and replace his voice. But he worked so well, we kept him.
Yeah, it's very effective. And in this film, especially in the trimming of the film and the fact that the script had been changing, Roger came back several times and did many different versions of these things, depending on, that's one of the advantages of having your killer talking on the phone, is that you can tweak and adjust his dialogue to suit whatever you need to suit story-wise.
Right.
And Roger came back and did many of those things for us and was always very, very effective.
Coming up on a little shot we shot that will explain where she gets the vest from the last. Assuming you've seen the picture. If not, don't pay attention to the thing we're saying.
There it is there. That shot was probably done one of the very last days of photography in January of 2000. I'm putting that shot in.
Right.
That was an insert day, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not even shooting.
But it just effectively that there's so much to look at that there. There's, an empty holster. There's all other things. And you see the vest and the two people walking outside who are talking about the fact that, Kincaid's not there. And so that, maybe you see the vest, maybe you don't. Maybe you see it on second look. It seems that it's about 50-50 whether people notice it or not. Good score piece of, nicely escalating everything as she goes in and finds the gun, and everything kind of builds, and then stops the moment she gets out of the car.
That's the name of the killer right there in the building. If you just would have paid attention, folks.
He did it on his birthday.
What?
You followed directions well, Sydney. Now welcome to the final act. See that metal detector?
The direction line added as it was scripted that he called her in the car en route.
Yeah, I was just thinking that we had all these scenes. We had a big scene where the cops run out of the police station realizing the car has been stolen, and we had scenes with her in the car driving and getting instructions. We finally said, we don't need any of this, and didn't even bother shooting it and never miss it.
You just that one line, you follow directions well. There you go. Somebody must have told her how to get there.
Saves a lot of time and money.
And especially story time, because at this point you're just so desperate to see them get together and get it on.
Right. Now, Marianne, you should review some of the... we had so many permutations on this next scene of various characters strung up on the walls and everything else. It was like an amazing amount of versions we had of these moments.
Well, at one point we didn't want to have Dewey and Gale tied up, sort of helpless like that. We thought it'd be much scarier if the ghost had strung up Angelina, Emily Mortimer, and Dion.
And Parker.
And Parker, exactly. Kind of like Silence of the Lambs or something.
Yeah, and this cross between Silence of the Lambs and Alien finding the bodies, or Aliens, rather.
Where did we hide Dewey and Gale at that point?
They were in the screening room. We're going to be behind the screen or something.
That's right. They were going to sort of bust through the screen or something at the end.
Yeah, she goes in and Emily Mortimer's alive. Isn't that right?
Right. That was the Emily Mortimer, Angelina alive scenario where she was actually the girlfriend of Roman, which was so sick because, of course, she plays Sydney. And, of course, they're, as we find out later, siblings. So we loved the sickness of that. But unfortunately, this is what we have. But we love it and it works and,
The other big difference was in the scene here where the killer steps in for the first time. He had a huge amount of lines where he went on and on and on, and we just looked at it in the cutting room. We all felt like this guy shouldn't talk when he has the mask on and when he's on screen. It just doesn't work at all. So
we somehow realized that, we forgot that we never did that really in Scream 1 and 2. And a lot of the scenes had that written in Scream 3, and we realized that's why we had never done it before, because it doesn't really work.
Yeah, there's kind of two killers. There's the killer that is very conversant on the telephone, and then there's the silent figure in the room.
Why any of the other two movies have so often the two killers, and this movie is just one, so you have to reconcile the fact that it's the same person.
Right.
This was always a really effective moment, because I believe in the original script, Kincaid's entrance was not in there, and I think this was one of those last-minute things out of all the different versions we talked about. This was one of the best ads that came in, because he plays this so well.
Because originally there was no more Kincaid, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Kincaid disappeared back in the police station.
That's right.
We kept saying, well, we have to get this character in, and we kept adding scenes with him, and every time we brought him back into the picture, it worked beautifully. So,
well, that's right. Originally, he was just ended up back at Sid's house, right? That was the only time you saw him again.
Right.
Of course, we cut out the aftermath, the morning after shot of, at the mansion after all the destruction.
And it's just kind of the moment that you think Kincaid is the killer, and he has that great look as he's putting the gun away, and then, of course, he's not.
Who could it be?
So the person we feel we lost a little bit was Josh Pice's character, who kind of disappears and doesn't reappear.
Right.
We could never. Actually, he was in this aftermath scene that Marianne was talking about. After all the fighting in the final scenes, there was a morning after scene where the cops are taking out the body, and Josh was there. But we ran a little short of time at the house here, and 86 that scene, didn't shoot it.
And we realized we didn't need it since we did have the last scene of the movie, which was at Nev's house. There would have been sort of 3 different endings.
Right.
And it just didn't work in this particular story.
I guess we could have had Josh, barbecuing with his kids up at Sid's house, but
that's true. Darn it.
And tell the story of the bookshelves in the library there.
The bookshelf that you just saw, the hidden passageway, is now in Courtney Cox's house. She is a furniture house craze person. She redecorates every 4 months, and she loved that. So she bought it from us and had it built into her house, and so now has a hidden passageway, hidden doorway in her house, and of course all the kids come over to love it.
Everybody loved me. Have you missed me, Sydney?
It's the mother sequence, which Stuart Besser, our line producer, enjoyed.
The actual video sequence.
Yes.
Yes. The crew actually laughed when we shot the mother coming out, and they thought that was just ridiculous, but it actually worked.
Wes, I have never seen you laugh harder in your life.
Oh, no, I got hysterically laughing because I knew everybody thought I was insane for doing that.
I've never seen you as out of control as that night. I've never. Poor Scott Foley was in there. And I don't even know why you made him be in there, because you couldn't tell it was him, and he didn't know what was going on, and everyone was laughing, and we were crying, and Wes, worse than anyone.
I know, it's true. Well, this was a little additional shoot that we went back and shot this emergence of the mother, because I thought it was a good way to key into the, kind of a 3-point thing of the mother's ghostly appearances. But everybody thought I was loony to do it, and I became convinced that I was loony, but I was going to shoot it anyway, so.
That's right.
But I started to see it as loony also, and silly.
It worked, though.
It was
You're
also
right.
the opening he came out was so narrow that he had sort of wedged his way sideways, so we finally ended up shooting it in kind of slow motion, so it made it a little bit more graceful.
It's interesting when you see that moment with an audience, how the second they see him come back up with the sheet there, having seen, the 2 previous kind of, the ones with the sheet and then the ones the actual mother vision, is that everybody's like, and it works so absolutely, and I think, we all had a lot of doubt.
Yeah, no, we did, I must say. But Wes, you were right.
Well, I
hate to say that.
I know you do.
But the video shoot that you see Maureen Prescott with all the different men in Woodsboro is like such a wicked, it's such a wicked sequence.
And that was shot by Stuart Besser,
who loves that kind of stuff.
And it was
He's our line producer.
But here she goes. Here's the little tramp, Maureen Prescott, which was so much fun going back and getting Billy's dad. That's Billy's dad from Scream 1. We see him at the police station in Scream 1.
They actually shot a shot of the entire crew coming out of the motel one by one, kissing her as they left, right?
I hate to tell you, it ended up with a giant sort of dog walking out.
Like a mastiff or something?
Yeah. It was sick. It was fun and sick. But I mean, poor Sid, seeing all this, stuff about her mother right in her face.
Well, that's the least of it.
There.
I love Maureen's hair there coming out as in the kind of messy afterglow.
And the cigarette and, Billy Loomis's dad's mouth, looking kind of proud of himself.
Now, how far into the shoot, those of you with memories, was this for Scott? Because this was an enormous...
So it's probably before we came back and started shooting the Woodsboro set, so it's probably almost 2/3 in.
Mm-hmm.
I know for him it was like the big...
Mm-hmm.
Because normally I think he plays much more good-natured people.
Yeah, he'd never played ever a villain, and it was a real challenge for him, and he was terrified of it. And of course, he did such a fantastic job.
Hero and villain face to face. Well, you know what happens now? The villain.
Yeah, especially the build-up in these moments to come, where he just gets more and more crazy. Because here he's very in control, and as he begins to lose it, he becomes remarkably effective, increasingly effective. He's effective throughout.
And we had 2 kind of little mini accidents on the show, and one was here with Milton. The point that Roman throws Milton down.
Lance's hands were tied behind his back, and he Expected to get gently shoved.
Well, he was just not even supposed to throw him because we were cutting right after. You'll see coming up. You'll see at the point that he's thrown. And Scott Foley was so into his character that he just threw Lance on the floor. And it was pretty scary.
Lance landed on his head and had a gigantic goose egg and almost broke his nose.
And his hand.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason. There you go. Right here.
Now, that's a stuntman there, but the previous shot, Lance went down like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, it was awful.
Fortunately, he didn't work again for several weeks, so he was able to heal.
We can still see the cut on his forehead a little bit somewhere, Patrick, right?
Yeah. You really it's actually the take before the neck slit. The neck slit was actually done afterwards, and there's actually a pad there for that. But in the previous takes of the coverage with dialogue is where Scott just kind of threw him out at the end of the scene when he'd finished his dialogue. And you hear Lance kind of whimper as he goes down because he was clearly not expecting to be hurled into the plant or C-stand or whatever's down there.
I know, being hurled and your hands are tied behind your back.
Yeah, that was the tough part.
That was bad.
But Lance seemed, he's, in the few times I met him, he always seemed very good-natured about such things.
Poor Scott, you can imagine how badly he felt.
I read an interview of him in Fangoria magazine recently, and he mentions that his wife was furious at us for letting Lance was in the process of about to having a baby, a new baby in his family, and by the end of the shoot had. So
I'm sure she wasn't too thrilled about an injured husband. No. At that point, and something worse could have happened. It's another little mini accident, which we'll talk about when it happens. Luckily, that wasn't one.
That was actually an optical to give a little secret away because we felt it wasn't safe. So we did the stab into the counter without Sid there and put the two together optically.
Sydney!
Ooh.
At one point, we felt Sid got sort of the best of him too easily, so we went back and shot this fight even rougher, where she just gets the living stuffing knocked out of her to make it really, really critical that it looked like she was about to die. It was also a case where we in a newer version of it, in a later version, we put Scott into it, making his arrival. Which is kind of the final thing here of distracting the killer long enough to save Sidney's life.
When Kincaid enters.
Right.
And Scott was really effective in all the additional photography because it was just so much action and just his performance in there. He really came across even more demonic and raised the whole thing to an extra level for the character of just coming completely unglued.
Of course, we added Kincaid here too in the reshoot. Originally, he wasn't in this scene.
Right. Wasn't his hair very different in this?
He had cut his hair cut off. So this is a wig.
Nothing is as it seems.
Nothing. Ooh. They were actually worried about Scott Foley's hair and David Arquette's hair. But we figured, you know what? Things we get away with, I think we'll be okay. Yeah. But if you look, David's hair is different.
And if you actually watch Scott's sideburns, when he starts searching the room, you'll see his sideburns get shorter and longer depending on whether it's the old footage or the new footage.
Oh, and Nev's hair is completely different, really, if you look.
And this, and just to go back to plot matters, we had this moment here where he looks down at her and it seemed that she was dead, and he asks her if she is or whether she's holding her breath, and he says, "It's easy to fake being dead. I did it with Gail Weathers." So that was a place where we tried to be Johnny Explainer, but it didn't work, so we just had shooters.
Less is more.
Which was actually Bob Weinstein's a telephone call to me saying, "Please shoot it two ways. Do it once where he just shoots her a second time," and we did it, and actually that was the one that worked.
Yeah, it was a good call because it's so effective when he just comes up and just ruthlessly just shoots her.
Right.
This is back in the original footage.
So this is the sideburn difference?
Yeah. I mean, it's slight, but it's there. Of course, a shot of Sid's hands grabbing this, that, and the other thing.
Bar tools.
The original version didn't have a Sidney shot, and she simply disappeared and crawled around the room and hid behind the bar, so we played that much more that way, and it really was not effective. nearly as effective as her being shot and then disappearing. We're coming up here on a second little accident. Marianne, you want to tell what that was?
Yeah, right here at the Sid comes over the bar, you'll see, with the weapon and stabs him. And, of course, thinking that she was stabbing him through the bulletproof vest or,
Well, we had a pad on his back.
Oh, we had a pad as well. But she actually didn't make it.
She missed.
So the reaction on Scott's face is real.
Yeah, from the previous take, his reaction was kind of milder, and then that take was like, wow, his reaction's really incredible.
Uh-huh.
Because, of course, he was screaming
He showed
in
us
pain.
this big hole in his back.
Oh, yeah. So, of course, Sid felt terrible. And, there's little accidents happen. There's another thing earlier when Dewey and Gail are at the bookshelf and Dewey's knocking books down. A book hits Gail on the head. And if you look at that scene, she's really mad.
She gives him a very dirty look.
And she's mad.
And we actually used another take, and they saw it in a rough cut, and she said, put that other one back. That's more real. So we did.
Didn't you tell her she was out of character there or something?
I did, and she didn't take that to me.
No, but it doesn't matter because it works perfectly. But you could see that she is really mad about that. I would be too if there was a book falling in my eye.
This is actually cutting back and forth between footage that was shot originally and then some of the additional shots to enhance the fight and so forth, and all cut together very well, even though everybody had different hair lengths and everything else. You'd never know it.
Yeah, because that was like 3 months later, so Sid's hair grew quite a bit.
The only one you kind of notice is Dewey. His hair is a little more down here. But, you're right, it was the original was shot in August, and the additional photography was shot in January.
So is this new or old right there?
Oh, it's actually going from shot per shot as they walk over. This is all old.
This is the original.
His hair's longer.
We didn't want to ever try to reshoot this.
Except for the moment that actually Scott flies back.
Yeah.
That's all new.
Okay.
Originally, by some fluke, he just fell back into such shadow, he completely disappeared. We had no idea what happened to him at all.
That's old, and then the shot of Sydney is new.
Yeah, hers longer there.
And then this is new.
That's a wig on Kincaid. And that wig literally was found in 12 hours. Because he didn't bother to tell us when we called him 2-3 weeks previously to say, could you work? He didn't tell us until the last minute that his hair was all gone. This, of course, here is where we would have had that aftermath scene. But...
Yes, the morning after.
Morning after. Sunrise.
Kincaid's
ambulance.
partner walks by all the chaos and says, my God, what happened? But
instead...
we just moved things along.
Yeah, it would have been too much.
This was a reshoot. We shot this shot and the next shot, and we just knew we wanted spectacular light, and we'd missed it by that magic hour by just a few minutes, and so we went back and set the whole thing up and then shot it again, and got that kind of magical light.
You hate that book. Besides, I'm done with that kind of reporting.
For me.
Yes, the side story on this is David was very unhappy this day because he thought that the killer should break into the cabin here and kill everybody.
Everyone.
I think there was a take where he looked at the camera and spoke to Bob Weinstein and said, I'm doing this, but you really should just kill everybody. Just a total massacre.
Yeah, both of them said that. I mean, Courtney said that too. End with a bloodbath. You got to go out with a bang.
Yep, there was David's look at the camera. Rewind that a few frames and he looks directly into the
I'm
lens.
asking you just to see if we're wrong. We don't know everything yet.
It's a very sweet moment, and a little ad lib on David's part here of saying, I think, sometimes you do think you know everything, but... All of these moments, when I watch them, just feels very much like David and Courtney, how they must have, thought about their own marriage, because they, in some ways, are so different, and yet took this leap and got married and seem to have this wonderful relationship that just is one in a million.
And they're really perfect for each other.
Here's the reshoot of everything working right. I think in the first shots, the gates kept rolling back open again, so we went back and got the right backlight.
It's another kind of effect of the final piece of score being this big kind of triumphant version of Sydney's theme, which you've never heard it this way before.
for you. We're gonna start a movie.
What kind of movie?
You have to come and see.
3 versions of Kincaid, one without Kincaid, one with Kincaid in his sling, and one with Kincaid with no sling, depending on what we did to him at the end.
A lot of people have said, no, this must mean that the killer's still out there, but I think we all felt very much it was Sidney had earned the right to have the doors open.
And she goes with it.
Take a little walk to the edge of town. No, spread your wings and fly. Don't the lights of the city look so damn pretty when you fly so high? It's hard to know without the down below. The streets, babe, are swimming deep in blood.
This again is the Nick Cave song that is reprised in all 3 films. And
Written just for us.
Written just for us in this Red Right Hand 2 with lyrics that are specifically worked on by Nick and that Wes had input on, and in order to make it very specific to our film.
It's important to say that our soundtrack album has just gone gold.
Oh, great. And we like doing credits where you can see the person's picture by their name. I think that's a nice way to kind of honor the actors and have a little glimpse of them from the happier moments of the film, too.
Or the suspicious moments, as the case may be.
Suspicious moments. Well, it's not too happy for her either.
That's suspicious. Voluptuous and suspicious.
Liev went off to do Hamlet right after this.
Hamlet on Broadway.
Yeah.
Of course, Patrick Dempsey's gone on to he's in England right now for a year doing a series for Spielberg and Tom Hanks, a World War II series.
And Patrick Lussier, our editor, is going off to direct his first feature film.
It shall be produced by Wes Marion.
Dracula 2000.
Coming out soon.
Sooner than we'd like.
And there's our trusted team.
Many of these people have worked with us on all 3, almost across the board. We had the same team on all 3 films, which was very important to us.
And in some cases, really for the past 7 movies.
Yes, including Patrick, who has been cutting for us since...
How many movies, Patrick?
I've been cutting for you, I think, since 91.
91.
I think starting on the TV series, Nightmare Cafe, and going up through there.
Wow.
Going up, first feature was Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and everything since. So.
It's been a wonderful opportunity for me.
You had to say that.
No, it's true.
Have to say that.
Really?
Of course it is.
Oh, good. Yeah, a lot of these people have been with us for years. People on this crawl.
And have moved up a lot, too.
Yeah.
A lot of young people that started, as assistants and so forth are now presidents of the studio. I don't know.
I hate that. Cornelia,
my girlfriend, got all the clearances for all those posters and books in Kincaid's office.
John Emery, post-production assistant, actor, AD.
That was the other security guy in the background all the time.
Now, is this another Creed song?
This is the other Creed song. This one was written, I think, or specifically for the movie, or it only appears on the soundtrack.
That's right, yeah. Of course, you saw the Creed posters in the Sid room on the stage. A little product placement going on there. There's all our trusted assistants, Suzanne, Cerise.
So, is this the end for my friend?
Craft service, Nick Mastandrea was the thrower of the pot in the big fights. He was an ex-quarterback, and he could throw anything at anything or into a wastebasket at 50 feet. There were constantly bets going on out in the parking lot with the crew about who could throw things into the waste cans the best, and it was always Nick that won. I think it took me for a couple $100 over the course of the shoot.
Our wonderful Rick Avery, stuntman. Stunt coordinator, rather.
All the sound crew who did such a great job, and the music crew, putting things together into such a tight schedule. to make things sound and feel quite spectacular.
You really had no time in post. It was very rushed.
Yeah, I think the fact that we pulled this off speaks highly of our entire crew, especially people like Dan Arredondo and
Patrick
Marco and Patrick, who were able to pull off everything right the first time.
I think that during the last kind of weeks on the show, Wes was shooting and then being driven to the mixing stage where we were mixing reels that we were then dropping shots into, and they would come over to the cutting room and approve cuts and things like that, and just was essentially having to be wheeled from place to place.
Literally wheeled.
We're tired. We're still tired.
Well, we've done, I think, as a crew and as a production unit, we've done Scream 1, 2, and 3, and Music of the Heart, and a novel somehow thrown in there, all within the span of about 3 years, or 4 years. So
4 years.
It's been quite a run.
Yep.
And we'd like to thank you all for joining us for that run and helping making it the success that it's been. Sure to buy the box set and the action figures. And, special thanks to Bob Weinstein, who saw the possibility of this film at the very beginning and brought us all aboard to do it for him. And I think it's worked out really beautifully for all of us.